This is the Pogo3d custom map making setup guide. In this guide, I will take you from a fresh install of Pogo3d to your own basic map uploaded to the Steam Workshop. If you've already figured out how to make and upload a map, feel free to skip this video. First off, launch Pogo3d. If you don't see Custom Maps button here, you'll need to opt into the beta branch. To do that, you're going to right-click on Pogo3d in Steam, go to Properties, Betas, and switch from none to the beta branch. And then it should download the update. And when you launch again, you'll see the tab there. For the sake of your sanity, I recommend you go to the Options menu here and go to Game Options and turn on Alt-Tab Mute. That way, the game won't make any noise when you're tabbed out and working on a map. I just have the sound muted for the sake of this video. I'm going to make a folder here on my desktop. I'm going to name it Pogo Mapping Shortcuts. We're going to be jumping around in File Explorer a lot, so this will just make that a lot less confusing. One other thing I will do while I'm here for you Windows users, so I'm going to make a map definition.txt. If I go into the File Explorer settings with View, Show File Name Extensions, you'll see I actually created a file named mapdefinition.txt. This is going to cause you some problems later, so I recommend you turn on this Show File Name Extensions option. Let me just delete this file now. The first thing we're going to do is put a link to the build folder into here. So if we open up Steam and go to Pogo3d Manage Browse Local Files, it's going to take us to our install directory for Pogo3d. I'm just going to click on this lowercase Pogo folder and copy, and then I can close that. Go back to the Pogo Mapping Shortcuts folder and then paste a shortcut. And I'm going to name this build folder. There you go. Let's also add the mapping folder. So if we open Pogo3d here, and we go to custom maps, this little folder icon here is going to open up another file explorer. This is where your maps are going to be stored. So I'm going to actually click up one level here, pressing this little arrow, and I'm going to right click the maps folder, copy, and then go back to the Pogo Mapping Shortcuts folder. I can close Pogo3d, and I'm going to paste here another shortcut called local maps. Then I'm going to need one more folder here. We're going to go up 2 levels to this lowercase Pogo folder, and we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it in right here as another shortcut, and we'll call this Pogo App Data. Now that our Trench Broom folder is set up, let's install some software. Trench Broom is the level editor we will be using. You can find this link in the description. Trench Broom requires VC Redist 2015 to run. You probably want the 64-bit version, but if you play a lot of Steam games, it's possible you already have it, so you might just install Trench Broom and try and run it and see if it explodes first. You probably want this 164.7z, and because it's a 7-zip archive for some reason, you're also going to need 7-zip. You can just Google that, 7zip.org, blah blah blah, download exe. Now that we have 7-zip, we can extract Trench Broom. I'm just going to do extract heap files. Okay. And because I'm lazy, I'm going to cut this and I'm just going to paste it straight into my documents. Please organize your computer better than this. I'm only doing it because it's a guest account anyway. And then for the sake of your eyeballs, click into the install and go to games. You can just delete all of these, but leave Quake if you want. And now let's just try running it to make sure that we don't need VC Redist, and I didn't need it. Okay, now let's close TrenchBroom for now and go back to our Pogo Mapping Shortcuts folder and open up Build Folder TrenchBroom. And this is the game definition for Pogo3d for TrenchBroom. And I know what you're thinking, I'll just put it in this folder here. Do not put it here, it won't work. I don't know why, but you actually have to go to, if you click on this bar here, you can type percentage app data percent, and you'll see somewhere in here will be TrenchBroom. You open this folder and you go to games, and it's already there, but that is where you're going to want to copy and paste Pogo3d to. And now, if everything worked correctly, TrenchBroom should just show me Pogo3d right here. Sweet. One more thing, I'm actually going to copy TrenchBroom here and paste a shortcut on my desktop just so I don't get lost. Side note here, if you go to the how to make custom levels guide that I wrote, if you scroll down to the add Pogo3d to TrenchBroom section, you can see I describe a hard way to copy and paste Pogo3d that creates a symbolic link. This is going to make it so that if I ever update the TrenchBroom definition for Pogo3d, it'll automatically update. I'm not going to explain how to do it in detail because the guide goes over it pretty well. Now we need to set up Pogo3d within TrenchBroom. So let's open it and go to New Map, Open Preferences, and select Pogo3d. We need to select the game path here, and if we go back to our desktop, Pogo Mapping Shortcuts, Build folder, we can actually just copy this in the top bar here and paste it straight in, and that will work. For the compilation tools though, we're going to need to download Eric W Tools. This link is in the description as well. This one requires VC Redist 2013, which is a different one. Later, I might update the link to point to Eric W Tools 2.0, which is a slightly newer version, which uses the same redistributable as TrenchBroom does. So you might not need to download it this time. I recommend also just running it and see what happens. So let's go to win64.zip. That's what you need to download. Now that it's downloaded, we can extract it, not with 7-zip. Okay, and then I'm just going to take this folder, and I'm again going to cut it, and I'm going to paste it in my documents. Again, organize your stuff better than this. Okay, now that we have Eric W Tools where it's going to live, we can go into the bin folder here, and I'm just going to copy this path, and I'm going to hit these 3 dots and then paste the path and hit enter. And now I'm going to select, for the BSP one, you're going to select QBSP. And for Viz, you're going to select Viz. And for Rad, you're going to select Light. And then OK. And now your TrenchBroom should be set up so when you launch it, open a new map for Pogo3d. Everything should be working. So let's just try and compile a map real quick. Nothing explode. Oh, I didn't save it. So let's save document. And I'm actually going to go to my Pogo Mapping Shortcuts local maps folder. In order for Pogo3d to see your map, it needs to be in this folder. And you need to create a new folder in here named whatever you want your map to be named. And you go into here and you again name it tutorial.map, save, and then let's try compiling it. Boom, and there was no explosions because we did not need VC Redis 2013. It's already installed. Just to show you, I'm going to go into my Pogo local maps folder and show you the tutorial map is not just a .map anymore, but it's also a .bsp. The BSP is the file that Pogo3d opens, and then some intermediate files and log files that don't really matter. Okay, let's go back into Pogo3d and actually open this map up. Okay, custom map tutorial. And as you can see, the map failed to load and we ran into 1 errors and 3 warnings. And if we go to the Pogo mapping shortcuts app data folder, you can see custom map load.log here. This is where your log of loading the map will end up. So even if the map successfully loads, you might have some warnings. So if you experience weirdness, this is where you want to look. But also, if there's an error, you can just click this button to open it up directly. Let's go over these warnings and errors real quick. First of all, we couldn't find a map definition.txt. This is just a warning. You probably want one so you can specify like the version of the map and your name, and if you want to do custom skybox stuff, that's how you would do it. Warning 2 is that our one little block in this world is untextured and the texture can't be found. It'll also show this for custom textures, of course. Then error 3 here is that we don't have any main path checkpoints, and we need at least one to spawn the player one at the start. And warning 4 here is that there's no trigger finish, which is optional, but of course it's nice to be able to win the map. So let's go back into Tridgebroom and fix some of this stuff. So first, let's load some textures. This widget on the right has 3 tabs here: Map, Entity, Face. If we go to the Face tab here and hit the bottom, this little plus button, again, you're going to want to go to your Pogo mapping shortcuts and go to Build folder, Custom WADs. These are where the WADs that ship with the game come. These are just bundles of textures. I'm going to load pogostock.wad. You can, of course, make and distribute your own WADs, and there's a method of sharing WADs with your map that I'll go over in another video. But these should be fine for getting started. So I'm just going to click on this brush here, and then I'm going to select the grass 4 texture to put it on. Now we just need the checkpoint. So to do that, we're going to need to add a new brush to the scene. This thing here is called a brush, and levels are made entirely of them. This one's a cube, but they don't all need to be cubes. These other tools here, well, I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about them. Will let you make like funnier shapes if that's what you desire. Okay, but instead I'm going to go back to default tool and unselect everything. I'm going to use right click and WASD to position my camera in a nice way, and then I'm just going to click and drag this box into existence. Now I'm going to put the checkpoint texture on it from the Faces tab. This doesn't do anything, but it makes it easier to see that it's a checkpoint. Oops. Now I'm going to turn it into a checkpoint by right-clicking, create brush entity, trigger checkpoint. It's also a little short, so I'm going to hold shift and select this top face and click and drag to raise it up a little bit. That's probably good. And now I'm going to... It'll work just like this. The player will spawn sort of at the bottom, exactly in the middle of this shape. If you want to do something different, and I'm just going to show you for example, that you can click and drag this info player respawn point into here to use this instead. Now, it's not going to detect it immediately. You're going to have to name the info player respawn by selecting it, going to target name and putting a name in here, and then going to trigger underscore checkpoint. Wow, this is really annoying. And go to target and put again the same value, main1, and now you'll see there's like a little red line connecting them. The last thing I'm going to do is position the checkpoint, the respawn point, inside the checkpoint, and I'm actually going to hold Alt to lift it. Boom. There we go. And you can rotate it with Alt arrow key, or you can use the rotation tool. You can change the snapping as well, by the way, to rotate it however you feel like. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to save and run, compile the map. And let's launch Pogo3d and see if it works. Okay. Sweet. Now we're on a pogo stick in a endless void. Now let's make this map a little bit more fun. I'm going to go back into Trench Room here. And first of all, I'm going to select this platform. I'm going to make it a bit bigger, but first I'm going to change the grid size. You can use the number keys for this, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet, so I just manually select grid 128. Now if I shift click and drag, it's going to be, hello? What is going on, bro? That was weird. I just spammed escape and click until it worked. Okay, you're going to shift and drag this edge out a bit, whatever you think is a good size. This is probably good. Now, I'm actually going to we need some walls for this space, so instead of shift click dragging, you can actually control shift click drag, and it's going to spawn a new face right out, a new brush right outside. Cool. And now I'm going to select these brushes, and I'm going to, by control clicking, you can select them all. I go to faces here, I'm going to give it this cliff 4 texture, and I'm going to hold shift and drag them up a bit. Sweet. And now I'm actually going to control shift drag out another block, and these ones I'm going to color skybox colored. And then I'm going to take this bottom block and I'm going to hold Control and Alt to clone it. And sorry, it's Control to clone, and after that, or at the same time, you hold Alt to increase the height. Now I'm just going to also give this the skybox texture, and because it's aggravating me, I'm going to hold Shift and raise the bottom up to the grid and raise the top up to the grid as well. So now we have a little room. Let's just compile, run. It's good practice to make sure your map has no holes into the void of space. Even your sky should be covered by this skybox texture. That's wrong. There you go. This is pissing me off now. Sweet. So now we're in a box. Next we need some sort of challenge and the finish. So I'm going to head back into Trench Broom. Next thing I'm going to do is put a little box in this, hello? Box in this corner. Boom. And I'm going to color it a fun color. And you can color individual faces by shift clicking a face. And then I'm going to put, I don't have a log interior, which is kind of disgusting, but whatever. Now, this is probably good. Now I'm going to actually drag another box into existence here, and I'm going to mark this as the finish. It's a little wide, so I'm going to decrease my grid, and I'm going to, actually 32 is probably good, and I'm going to shift drag this face in a bit, just so it's a little further in and a little lower down. And again, this is not a finish line. I'm just going to show you real quick what it looks like in case you mess up later. See, it shows up with this debug texture, and when I touch it, it just kills me. Okay. So let me instead right click, create a brush entity, a trigger, finish. There we go. Now when I compile the map, it'll actually work. Okay, sweet. Now, just for fun, let's put a second checkpoint in here. So instead of this being a trigger finish, I'm going to make a new entity, it's not an entity yet. I'm going to put another checkpoint, and again, I'm going to create a trigger checkpoint. And again, it's going to spawn the player by default in the middle of this unless I set up an info_player respawn. So I'm going to do that. But there's actually one thing that, sorry, main2, and then select this trigger checkpoint. And I'm going to set the name to main2 as well. And I'll again hold Alt and raise this up a bit and put it in the center. Save, compile. And when I try and run it, it's going to explode. And so let's look at the log, and it will say map contains duplicate checkpoint with path type main path and number 1. Each checkpoint needs a different ID. Okay, so if I go back into here, you can see that trigger checkpoint actually has a path type and number property that I conveniently ignored earlier. Path type, if you click this, it shows you there's two values for it. It can be either a main path or a side path checkpoint. Side path checkpoints are not numbered, so if I left it as a side path, I could duplicate this as many times as I want, and I wouldn't get a duplicate checkpoint warning. But instead, I'm going to leave it as a main path, and I'm going to set the number to be 2. And that's because later I'm going to add options to do assist mode in custom levels, so this will allow skipping to work. If you don't set this up, it's going to break. Okay, now let's do one other thing here, which is add to the level a bit. I'm going to take this and I'm going to use shift to, I'm going to hold control shift to slice it. And then I'm going to select this part and control shift to slice it again. And then I'm going to take this bit and drag it over a bit. It sucks that the skybox is here, so I'm actually going to also grab this box, and I'm going to control to duplicate and hold alt to do it upwards. Hold shift and put it so there's like a little roof here, just so it doesn't look so bad. And then select these faces and lengthen my little hallway a bit. I'm gonna lengthen my hallway a bit. Now I just need to put a face at the end here, so I'm gonna deselect all, drag a face in, I'm gonna make another texture just so it looks a little different. There you go. Also, I think I'm going to shift click this floor, put this little grid texture. Fun. Now I'm gonna raise this up. Now we need a little, I think this being so short, let's just put in the end a finish line and call it a day. How about that? Are you too? No, you're not size. Hold control click to clone it, bring it over. I'm going to make it a finish. And again, it's not a real finish until I right click, create a trigger finish. There you go. And now let's save, compile. Sweet. And we'll load the map. Awesome. I'll just... Sweet. Now we have 2 checkpoints and our finish line. And that's it. We'll call that done for now. In the next video, I'll cover some best practices for how to map make that will make this a little bit less of a pain, and also maybe go over some more of these entity types. Okay, but for now, let's finish this map up and submit it to the Steam Workshop. So let's first open Pogo3d. After you go here, you can go to the upload button, click the map you want to upload, and you'll see a checklist. All these things are actually optional, but let's do them real quick. So for the author name and version, you're actually going to go into your Pogo mapping shortcuts local maps folder tutorial, and you're going to end up making a new text document here, and let's call this text document map definition.txt. Now I'm going to open up File Explorer again here and go to Mapping Shortcuts, Build Folder, Custom Maps, and this is Pogo Stock Test, which is a map that comes with the game just as an example. So if I open up this map definition, you can see how you're supposed to format it for the machine to read it. I'm just going to copy these values in. Fog color, fog thickness, and sky texture, I'm going to leave those off, but feel free to mess with them. If you want to know the sky texture names, you can check in the Pogo Stock Skies WOD. The MetaWOD also says the names of them, actually, so you don't have to do anything fancy. But yeah, so if I wanted to make the skybox of this sky underscore void, I would just do sky texture is sky void, like that. But I'm going to actually just leave that off. This is fine for now. I'm only defining a map definition at all because there's a bug in my version where if I don't have a map definition, it fails to upload. But so let's open this map up again, and it's complaining because whatever, I did that from the wrong screen. It didn't refresh. Oops. Okay. So upload map, there we go. Now it's missing a thumbnail still. And so I'm actually going to open up the map and do one more thing real quick, which is to drag in an info underscore camera underscore preview. Let me just put this somewhere fun. And you can actually change the angle of it as well with the rotate tool. So let's go like this, and I'm actually going to be really extra and give it a little stupid Dutch angle. Save. Compile map. Sweet. Now I'm going to go back in here, and if I hit this little button here, which is, by the way, described in this hint, you can click this, and it will load the map, take a picture, and close the map again. And now there is a thumbnail image. One last thing to do is to hit the upload button. Sweet, and it worked. So let's now open this link. And now I can add in some more screenshots if I want, or set a description, or change the title. But I'm actually just going to go down here and change the visibility to public and save. Wherever the save button is. Save automatically? Oh, whatever. Okay, well, I'm going to mark it hidden again because I don't want this one public. There you go. Now you have a map on the workshop, and I recommend you just leave it up there public because why not? I think even a dinky little map like this one, hello? It has its charm. So I recommend you do upload your tutorial map because there's not much on there already. You might as well just put something else out into the void. Okay, so yeah, that's actually going to be it for the first Pogo3d tutorial. Like I said earlier, if you want to see more nitty-gritty and play with some of the other fun entities, be sure to check out the next video, which is in the description or something. I don't know how YouTube works.